Welcome to Tales by Felix, where every story unlocks a new world. Remember to subscribe, like and share. Let's begin. The rain pattered softly on the black umbrellas, a mournful drumbeat that echoed the ache in Eleanor's chest. She stood by her son's open grave, clutching a single white rose, its thorns biting into her palm. The scent of damp earth and incense hung heavy in the air. Her son, Michael, was gone at 32, a car accident, they said. Just 1 week ago, he'd been laughing in her kitchen, promising to fix her leaky faucet. Now, his coffin gleamed under the gray sky, a cruel reminder of a life stolen too soon. Eleanor's eyes drifted to her daughter-in-law, Jessica, standing a few feet away. Jessica's black dress clung too tightly to her frame, her red lipstick stark against her pale face. She looked more like she was headed to a nightclub than a funeral. Her toddler, Ethan, Michael's son, clung to her leg, but Jessica barely noticed, her manicured fingers tapping furiously on her phone. Eleanor's stomach twisted. Who texts at their husband's funeral? Eleanor, you holding up? Pastor James's voice was gentle, his hand warm on her shoulder. She forced a nod, her throat too tight for words. I keep thinking he'll walk through the crowd, smiling. The pastor squeezed her shoulder. He's with the Lord now. But Eleanor's gaze flickered back to Jessica. The younger woman giggled softly at something on her screen, then caught Eleanor's stare. She shoved the phone into her purse, her lips curling into a tight smile. Sorry, just work stuff. Work stuff. Eleanor's grip on the rose tightened, a thorn drawing blood. She wanted to scream, to demand why Jessica's eyes were dry while hers burned with tears. But she stayed silent, the weight of grief chaining her tongue. As the mourners dispersed, Jessica approached, Ethan toddling beside her. We're heading back to the house. You coming? Eleanor nodded, her voice barely a whisper. I'll be there. Jessica's heels clicked on the gravel path as she walked away, her posture too straight, too carefree. Eleanor lingered by the grave, dropping the rose onto the coffin. I'm sorry, Michael, she whispered. I'll take care of Ethan. I promise. But as she turned to leave, a sleek black car pulled up at the cemetery gate. Jessica rushed toward it, her face lighting up. A man stepped out, tall and broad-shouldered, his face obscured by the rain. Jessica threw her arms around him, her laughter cutting through the solemn air. Eleanor froze, her heart pounding. Who is he? That night, Eleanor sat in Michael's old living room, the silence suffocating. The house still smelled of him, coffee grounds, cedarwood cologne. His favorite armchair sat empty, a dent in the cushion where he used to sit with Ethan on his lap. Eleanor clutched a framed photo of Michael, his grin wide as he held his newborn son. Her fingers traced his face, her chest aching with a grief too vast for words. A sharp knock at the door jolted her. She glanced at the clock, 11:37 p.m. Who comes this late? Jessica's voice floated from the hallway, bright and eager. I'll get it. Eleanor set the photo down and moved quietly to the living room doorway, peering into the dimly lit foyer. Jessica flung the door open, revealing the man from the cemetery. He wore a leather jacket, his dark hair slicked back, a gold chain glinting at his neck. He grinned, pulling Jessica into a kiss that lingered too long. Hey, babe, he said, his voice low and smooth. Missed you, babe. Eleanor's breath caught, her nails digging into the doorframe. She stepped back, hiding in the shadows, her heart hammering. Jessica giggled, leading the man inside. Sure, keep it down. She's probably asleep. Eleanor's mind raced. Who is this man? Why is he here, in my son's house, calling Jessica babe? She pressed herself against the wall, straining to hear their whispers. You sure about this? The man asked, his tone cautious. It's only been a week. Jessica's voice hardened. I'm not waiting forever, Nick. I deserve to move on. Move on. Eleanor's knees buckled. She slid to the floor, her hands trembling. Michael's funeral was hours ago, and Jessica was already bringing another man into his home? The betrayal sliced through her, sharper than any thorn. She peeked around the corner. Nick kicked off his boots, stepping into Michael's old slippers by the door. The sight was a punch to her gut. Those slippers, worn soft by her son's feet, now claimed by a stranger. Nick sprawled on the couch, pulling Jessica onto his lap. Their laughter filled the house, oblivious to the woman weeping silently in the dark. Eleanor's eyes burned with tears, but beneath the grief, a spark of anger ignited. "Who are you, Nick? And what did you mean, it's only been a week?" The next morning, Eleanor woke on the couch, her neck stiff, the photo of Michael still clutched to her chest. Sunlight streamed through the windows, mocking the storm in her heart. The house was quiet, save for the clatter of dishes in the kitchen. She stood, smoothing her wrinkled dress, and followed the sound. Jessica stood at the sink, humming, her hair piled into a messy bun. Ethan sat in his high chair, smearing oatmeal on his tray. Nick lounged at the table, scrolling on his phone, wearing one of Michael's old flannel shirts. Eleanor's breath hitched. "How dare he?" "Morning," Jessica said brightly, not looking up. "Coffee's on." Eleanor forced a smile, her voice tight. "Thank you." She poured a mug, her hands shaking, and sat across from Nick. Up close, he was younger than she'd thought, maybe late 20s, with sharp cheekbones and a smug grin. He glanced at her, nodding. "You're Mike's mom, right? Sorry for your loss." "Mike." Only Michael's closest friends called him that. Eleanor's grip on the mug tightened. "And you are?" "Nick," he said, leaning back. "Friend of Jess." "Friend." The word dripped with lies. Eleanor's eyes flicked to Jessica, who busied herself with Ethan, avoiding her gaze. "Grandma," Ethan chirped, reaching for her. Eleanor's heart softened, and she lifted him from the high chair, kissing his sticky cheek. He smelled of baby shampoo and innocence, a piece of Michael she could still hold. Nick chuckled, watching them. "Cute kid. Looks just like his dad." Eleanor's stomach churned. She set Ethan down, her voice steady despite the rage bubbling inside. "Yes, he does." Jessica finally spoke, her tone sharp. "Nick's staying for a bit. Helping out." "Helping out," Eleanor echoed, her eyes narrowing. "With what, exactly?" Jessica's smile didn't reach her eyes. "The house. Ethan. You know, life." Eleanor wanted to scream, to demand why Nick was wearing Michael's clothes, sleeping in his house. But Ethan's giggle stopped her. She couldn't scare her grandson. "Not yet." Nick stood, stretching. "I'm hitting the shower." He sauntered out, leaving his coffee mug on the table. Eleanor's eyes followed him, landing on Michael's slippers, still on Nick's feet. The sight was a knife to her heart, twisting deeper with every step he took. Jessica turned back to the sink, humming again. Eleanor stared at her, the spark of anger now aflame. "What are you hiding, Jessica?" That afternoon, Eleanor sat on the porch, watching Ethan play with his toy trucks in the grass. The summer heat pressed against her skin, but the real fire burned inside. She couldn't shake the image of Nick in Michael's slippers, Jessica's laughter, the word babe echoing in her mind. Jessica stepped outside, holding a glass of iced tea. "Mind if I join you?" Eleanor gestured to the empty chair, her voice cool. "Of course." Jessica sat, crossing her legs, her sundress riding up. She sipped her tea, then sighed dramatically. "It's been so hard, you know? Losing Michael." Eleanor's jaw clenched. "I know." Jessica glanced at her, her eyes calculating. "I'm trying to move forward. For Ethan's sake. Move forward." Eleanor's voice was sharp. "It's been 7 days, Jessica." Jessica's smile faltered, but she recovered quickly. "Everyone grieves differently. You can't tell me how to mourn." The word stung, a slap to Eleanor's raw heart. She leaned forward, her voice low. "I'm not telling you how to mourn. I'm asking why there's a man in my son's house, wearing his clothes, while his shoes are still by the door." Jessica's eyes flashed, but her tone stayed calm. "Nick's a friend. He's helping me cope." "Cope?" Eleanor's voice rose, trembling. "By kissing you. By calling you babe?" Jessica stood, her tea sloshing. "You were spying on me?" Eleanor rose too, her hands shaking. "I didn't need to spy. You brought him here, into Michael's home, in front of his son." Jessica's face hardened. "This is my home now, Eleanor. And you don't get to judge how I heal." The word heal was a mockery, twisting the knife in Eleanor's chest. She stepped closer, her voice a whisper. Michael loved you. He trusted you. And you're already replacing him. Jessica's eyes glistened, but no tears fell. I'm not replacing him. I'm surviving. She turned and stormed inside, slamming the door. Eleanor sank into the chair, her breath ragged. Ethan looked up, his eyes wide. Grandma okay? She forced a smile, pulling him onto her lap. Grandma's fine, sweetheart. But she wasn't fine. Jessica's words echoed in her mind, laced with defiance. Surviving. Eleanor's gaze drifted to the house, where Nick's laughter drifted through the open window. What are you surviving, Jessica? And at what cost? The next morning, Eleanor woke to Ethan's giggles. She followed the sound to the backyard, where Nick pushed Ethan on a swing. Jessica sat on a blanket, scrolling on her phone, a picnic spread untouched beside her. The scene was idyllic, a picture of a happy family, except it wasn't. It was a betrayal, painted in bright colors. Morning, Eleanor, Nick called, waving. Join us. Eleanor's smile was brittle. Just checking on Ethan. She knelt beside her grandson, brushing his curls. Having fun, sweetie? Ethan nodded, his eyes bright. Then he pointed at Nick. Daddy, push me. Eleanor's world stopped. The word, Daddy, was a bullet, tearing through her heart. She looked at Nick, who froze, his grin faltering. Jessica dropped her phone, her face paling. Ethan, honey, Eleanor said, her voice trembling. That's Nick. Daddy's in heaven. Ethan frowned, pointing again. No, Daddy. Nick chuckled, but it was forced. Kid's just confused. Right, Jess. Jessica scrambled to her feet, scooping Ethan up. He doesn't know what he's saying. Kids, you know. But Eleanor wasn't listening. She stared at Nick, her mind racing. How long has Ethan been calling him Daddy? How long has this man been in my grandson's life? The thought was unbearable, a violation of Michael's memory. Eleanor, relax, Jessica said, her voice sharp. It's just a word. A word. Eleanor's voice cracked. That's Michael's son. Michael's name. And you let him call this stranger Daddy? Nick stepped forward, hands raised. Whoa, let's calm down. I'm just helping out. Helping out. Eleanor's eyes blazed. By stealing my son's place? Jessica's face hardened. You're overreacting. Ethan needs a father figure. The words were a slap, raw and stinging. Eleanor's vision blurred with tears. He had a father. And you're erasing him. She turned and walked away, her heart shattering with every step. Ethan's voice followed her, calling, Grandma! But she couldn't stop, couldn't let them see her break. Inside, she sank to the floor, clutching Michael's photo. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm failing you. But then she noticed something, a shoebox peeking from under the couch. She pulled it out, her hands trembling. Inside was a photo, Jessica and Nick, laughing, their arms around each other. The date stamp was 2 years ago, before Michael and Jessica's wedding. Eleanor's breath stopped. They knew each other before Michael died. How long has this been going on? Eleanor's hands trembled as she clutched the photo, the edges crinkling under her grip. The dim light of the living room lamp cast harsh shadows across Jessica and Nick's smiling faces, frozen in time, 2 years ago, before Michael's wedding, before Ethan's birth. The background showed a beach, waves crashing, their arms slung around each other like they'd known each other forever. Eleanor's chest tightened, her breath shallow. How could you, Jessica? Was Michael just a placeholder? She shoved the photo back into the shoebox, her mind racing. The box was old, its cardboard frayed, stuffed with odds and ends, receipts, a broken watch, a keychain from Michael's college days. She dug deeper, desperate for answers, her fingers brushing against a folded note. Her heart skipped as she unfolded it, recognizing Michael's scrawl. If you're reading this, Mom, I'm sorry. Keep Ethan safe. The words blurred as tears welled in her eyes. What did you know, Michael? She pressed the note to her chest, the paper crinkling against her sweater. The house was quiet, save for the faint hum of the refrigerator and Ethan's soft snores from his room. Jessica and Nick had gone out, leaving her alone with her grandson and her suspicions. She crept upstairs to Jessica's bedroom, her pulse pounding. The door creaked as she pushed it open, revealing a space that no longer felt like Michael's. Jessica's perfume bottles cluttered the dresser, her clothes spilled from an open suitcase. Eleanor's eyes landed on the closet, its door ajar. She hesitated, guilt prickling her skin. Snooping felt wrong, but the photo burned in her mind. Inside the closet, she found another box, this one sleek and new, tucked behind a pile of Michael's old jackets. She knelt, her knees aching against the hardwood, and opened it. Inside were more photos, Jessica and Nick at a bar, a concert, a park. All dated before Michael's death. One showed them kissing, the timestamp just 3 months before the accident. Eleanor's stomach churned. She sat back, the photos spilling onto the floor like scattered lies. How long were you betraying him? The question clawed at her, but another followed, darker. Did you have something to do with his death? A car door slammed outside, headlights flashing through the window. Jessica's laughter echoed up the driveway. Eleanor scrambled to shove the photos back, her heart racing. She slipped out of the room, clutching Michael's note, and hid in the shadows of the hallway. What did you mean, Michael? What weren't you telling me? The next morning, Eleanor sat at the kitchen table, her coffee untouched, Michael's note hidden in her pocket. She hadn't slept, the images of Jessica and Nick haunting her. Ethan played on the floor, stacking blocks, oblivious to the storm brewing in his grandmother's heart. Jessica bustled in, her hair perfect, her smile too bright. Morning, Eleanor. Sleep okay? Eleanor nodded, her voice tight. Fine. Nick followed, carrying a toolbox. Gonna fix that fence out back, he said, winking at Jessica. Gotta earn my keep. Eleanor's fingers curled around her mug. Earn your keep? In my son's house? She forced a smile, her eyes flicking to Ethan. She couldn't confront them now, not in front of him. After breakfast, she took Ethan to the park, needing air, needing space to think. The playground was alive with children's laughter, but Eleanor's mind was elsewhere. She pulled out Michael's note again, rereading it. Keep Ethan safe. The words felt like a warning, heavy with meaning she couldn't yet grasp. Her phone buzzed, startling her. It was a voicemail from an unknown number, left at 2 a.m. She hesitated, then played it, holding the phone close. Michael's voice crackled through, weak but unmistakable. Mom, if anything happens to me, it wasn't an accident. Check my phone. The blue one, in my desk. Love you. Eleanor's breath stopped. She replayed it, her hands shaking. Not an accident. The words echoed, each syllable a hammer to her heart. Michael had suspected something. But what? And why hadn't he told her sooner? She rushed home, Ethan in tow, and slipped into Michael's old study. The desk was cluttered with Jessica's things. Makeup, receipts, a half-empty wine glass. Eleanor's fingers fumbled through the drawers, finally finding a small blue phone, its screen cracked. It powered on, barely, and she scrolled through it, her heart pounding. There were texts, dozens of them, between Michael and an unknown number. The last one, sent the day before his accident, read, I know about Nick. We need to talk. The reply was chilling. You're paranoid, Mike. Let it go. Eleanor's knees buckled. She sank into the chair, the phone trembling in her hand. He knew. Michael knew about them. Her eyes burned with tears, but beneath the grief, a fire grew. Did you confront her, Michael? Is that why you're gone? That evening, Eleanor waited until Ethan was asleep, his soft snores filling the house. Jessica sat on the couch, sipping wine, while Nick fiddled with his phone. The air was thick with tension, the weight of Eleanor's discovery pressing against her ribs. She couldn't hold it in anymore. She stood in the doorway, Michael's note and the blue phone in her pocket, the photos burned into her memory. Jessica, she said, her voice steady despite the storm inside, we need to talk. Jessica looked up, her smile faltering. What's wrong now? Eleanor stepped closer, her eyes locked on her daughter-in-law. Was Nick with you before Michael died? The room went still. Nick's head snapped up, his eyes narrowing. Jessica set her glass down, her laugh brittle. What are you talking about? Don't lie to me, Eleanor said, her voice rising. I found the photos. You and Nick, together, before Michael's wedding. Before Ethan was born. Jessica's face paled, but she recovered quickly, her tone sharp. You went through my things. That's low, Eleanor. Low. Eleanor's voice cracked, tears spilling. My son is dead, and you're bringing your lover into his house, wearing his clothes, letting his son call him daddy. And now I find out you were with Nick before Michael died. Nick stood, his hands raised. Whoa, hold on. This is getting out of hand. Out of hand. Eleanor turned on him, her voice ablaze. You're in my son's house, sleeping in his bed, and you think I'm out of hand? Jessica stood, her eyes blazing. You're the toxic one, Eleanor. You can't let Michael go, so you're inventing conspiracies to make me the villain. Eleanor's hands shook, Michael's voicemail echoing in her mind. She wanted to play it, to shove the phone in Jessica's face, but something stopped her. Not yet. She needed more. I'm not inventing anything, she said, her voice low. I know what I saw. Jessica stepped closer, her voice a hiss. You're grieving, Eleanor. I get it. But don't ruin my life because you can't move on. The words were a slap, raw and stinging. Eleanor turned and walked away, her heart pounding. She locked herself in the guest room, sinking to the floor, Michael's note crumpled in her fist. You knew, Michael. And I'm going to find out what happened to you. Eleanor barely slept, her dreams haunted by Michael's voice, his warning, it wasn't an accident. At midnight, a soft knock at the front door startled her awake. She crept downstairs, peering through the peephole. It was Mrs. Carter, the elderly neighbor, her face pale under the porch light. Eleanor opened the door, her voice a whisper. Mrs. Carter. It's late. I know, Mrs. Carter said, glancing nervously at the street. Can I come in? It's about Michael. Eleanor's heart raced. She ushered the woman inside, leading her to the kitchen. Mrs. Carter's hands trembled as she clutched her shawl. I didn't want to say anything at the funeral. Too many ears. But I saw Michael a few weeks before he died. Eleanor leaned forward, her voice urgent. What did he say? Mrs. Carter's eyes glistened. He was upset. Said he found out Jessica was seeing someone. He didn't give a name, but he was scared, Eleanor. Said he didn't trust her anymore. Eleanor's breath caught. Scared of what? Mrs. Carter hesitated, her voice dropping. He said, if anything happens to me, tell Mom to look after Ethan. I thought he was just stressed, but after the accident. Eleanor's hands clenched. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I was afraid, Mrs. Carter whispered. Jessica's been different since he died. And that man she's with, he watches the street like he's waiting for something. Eleanor's mind spun. Nick. She thanked Mrs. Carter, promising to keep her visit secret, and watched her slip back into the night. Alone, Eleanor paced, Michael's voicemail and Mrs. Carter's words colliding in her mind. He suspected something. And now he's gone. She looked at Ethan's bedroom door, her resolve hardening. I'll protect you, Ethan. No matter what it takes. The next day, Eleanor drove to an electronics store, her hands steady despite the storm in her chest. She bought a small nanny cam, its sleek design promising discretion. Back home, she waited until Jessica and Nick left for a lunch date, leaving Ethan with her. She tucked the camera into a bookshelf in the living room, its lens hidden among Michael's old novels. That evening, she checked the footage while Jessica and Nick were upstairs. The video was grainy but clear enough. Jessica and Nick sat on the couch, Ethan playing nearby. Jessica's voice was sharp. He's such a burden sometimes. I can't wait to get out of this dump. Nick laughed, pulling her close. Soon, babe. Once the money's sorted. Eleanor's blood ran cold. Money. She rewound the footage, her heart pounding. Jessica leaned into Nick, her voice low. She's asking too many questions. We need to be careful. Nick's tone was casual, but his eyes were hard. She's just a grieving old lady. She'll back off. Eleanor paused the video, her hands shaking. A burden? Ethan, her grandson, the light of Michael's life, called a burden? And what money were they talking about? She saved the clip to her phone, her anger a living thing. "You're not getting away with this, Jessica." She looked at Ethan, asleep in his crib, his tiny chest rising and falling. "I'll keep you safe," she whispered. But as she turned off the camera, a new sound stopped her cold, a car engine idling outside, too close, too late. She peeked through the blinds, her heart racing. A black car sat across the street, its driver hidden in shadow. "Who's watching us now?" Eleanor's heart pounded as she stared at the black car idling across the street, its engine a low growl in the quiet night. The driver's face was hidden, but the weight of their gaze prickled her skin. She let the blinds fall, her breath shallow. "Who are you? Are you with Nick?" The nanny cam footage burned in her mind, Jessica calling Ethan a burden, Nick's casual mention of money. She clutched her phone, the saved clip a ticking bomb. The next morning, Eleanor woke early, her eyes gritty from sleeplessness. Ethan's laughter drifted from the kitchen, a fleeting balm to her raw heart. She found him with Jessica, who was slicing apples, her smile too perfect. Nick was gone, his toolbox abandoned by the door. Eleanor's stomach twisted. "Where is he now?" "Morning, Eleanor," Jessica said, her tone bright. "Want some coffee?" Eleanor nodded, her voice tight. "Sure." She sat, watching Jessica's every move, the memory of the photos and Michael's voicemail fueling her suspicion. After breakfast, she took Ethan to the library, needing a safe space to think. She settled him with a picture book, then slipped into a quiet corner, pulling out Michael's blue phone. She scrolled through his emails, her fingers trembling. One caught her eye, dated 2 weeks before his death, from an insurance agent, policy updated. Beneficiary changed to Jessica Harper. Payout, $500,000. Eleanor's breath stopped. $500,000. She reread it, her mind racing. Michael had never mentioned changing his policy. She searched further, finding a follow-up email, payment process to Jessica Harper, July 15, 2025. The date was 3 days after Michael's funeral. Her hands shook as she dialed the insurance company, posing as Michael's widow to bypass security. The agent's voice was clinical. The claim was filed the day after Mr. Harper's death. Expedited processing, per the beneficiary's request. Eleanor hung up, her vision blurring. The day after? Jessica hadn't wasted a moment. The money, Nick's money, was Michael's life insurance. Rage coiled in her chest, sharp and hot. "Did you plan this, Jessica? Did you kill my son for his money?" She looked at Ethan, his tiny fingers turning pages, and her resolve hardened. "I won't let you take him, too." Eleanor drove home, her mind a storm of questions. The insurance payout was motive, but Michael's voicemail, "It wasn't an accident," hinted at something darker. She needed proof, something to crack Jessica's facade. Ethan napped in his car seat, his soft snores grounding her. She glanced at him in the rear-view mirror, her heart aching. "You're all I have left, sweet boy." Back home, Jessica was on the phone, her voice low, her back to the door. Eleanor paused in the foyer, straining to hear. "Yeah, it's done," Jessica said. "Just keep it quiet." She laughed, then hung up, turning to find Eleanor staring. "Everything okay?" Eleanor asked, her voice steady despite the pounding in her chest. Jessica's smile was tight. "Just work." "You're back early." Eleanor nodded, carrying Ethan upstairs, her mind racing. "What's done?" She tucked him into bed, then sat at her laptop, searching for answers. She found the coroner's report online, a public record buried in county files. Michael's cause of death, blunt force trauma, vehicular collision. But a footnote chilled her, toxicology pending. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number. She answered, her voice cautious. "Hello, Mrs. Harper." The voice was low, hesitant. "This is Dr. Patel, from the coroner's office." "I shouldn't be calling, but I knew Michael." Eleanor's heart raced. "What is it?" Dr. Patel's voice dropped. "His death certificate was rushed. My supervisor signed it before the toxicology came back. I tried to question it, but they told me to drop it." Eleanor gripped the phone, her knuckles white. "What was in the toxicology?" "I don't know," Dr. Patel admitted. "The results were sealed. But Michael was healthy. That crash, it didn't add up." Eleanor's breath hitched. Who sealed them? A pause. I can't say. But be careful, Mrs. Harper. Someone wanted this closed fast. The line went dead. Eleanor stared at her phone, her mind spinning. Sealed results? Rushed certificate? She thought of Jessica's call, her laughter. What did you do, Jessica? She looked out the window, half expecting the black car, but the street was empty. Still, the feeling of being watched lingered, a cold weight on her shoulders. I'm running out of time. Eleanor couldn't breathe in that house anymore. The walls closed in, suffocating her with memories of Michael and the stench of Jessica's betrayal. She packed a small bag, her hands shaking, and scooped Ethan into her arms. We're going for a drive, sweetie, she whispered, kissing his forehead. Jessica was in the living room, scrolling on her phone. Where you headed? She asked, not looking up. Errands, Eleanor lied, her voice calm. I'll have Ethan back by dinner. Jessica shrugged, her indifference a knife to Eleanor's heart. She buckled Ethan into his car seat, her eyes scanning the street. No black car, but the unease lingered. She drove aimlessly, her thoughts a tangle of grief and rage. Michael's voice echoed, "It wasn't an accident." She pulled into a diner, its neon sign flickering. Inside, she sat Ethan in a booster seat, ordering coffee she wouldn't drink. Her phone buzzed, a text from Mrs. Carter, "Saw Nick talking to a man in a black car last night. Be careful." Eleanor's stomach dropped. Nick's connected to the car? She stared at Ethan, his crayon scribbling across a placemat, and felt the weight of her failure. "I'm sorry, Michael," she whispered. "I don't know how to fight this." But then she remembered his words, from a long-ago argument with Jessica, "Don't let her win, Mom. She's not who you think." The memory was a spark, igniting her resolve. She couldn't run. Not yet. Ethan deserved better. Michael deserved justice. She paid the bill, her jaw set. "We're going back, Ethan," she said, lifting him. "Grandma's not done fighting." As she stepped outside, a black car pulled into the lot, its engine idling. Eleanor froze, clutching Ethan, her heart pounding. "They found me." Eleanor drove home, her eyes flicking to the rearview mirror, but the black car didn't follow. Her pulse raced, her hands slick on the wheel. She needed help, someone who could unravel Jessica's lies before it was too late. She thought of Clara, a retired lawyer who'd been Michael's godmother, a woman with a sharp mind and no patience for nonsense. She called Clara from a gas station, Ethan asleep in the back. "I need you," Eleanor said, her voice breaking. "It's about Michael." Clara's voice was warm but firm. "Come over. Now." Clara's house smelled of lavender and old books, a sanctuary from the chaos. Ethan played with Clara's cat while Eleanor poured out everything. The photos, the voicemail, the insurance payout, the sealed toxicology, the black car. Clara listened, her eyes narrowing, her pen scratching notes. "This is serious, Eleanor," Clara said, setting her pen down. "The insurance claim, the rushed certificate, it smells like fraud, maybe worse. Michael's voicemail could reopen the case, but we need hard evidence." Eleanor's hands trembled. "What do I do?" Clara leaned forward. "Keep quiet. Don't confront Jessica again. Get me that toxicology report if you can. And watch Nick, he's the weak link." Eleanor nodded, hope flickering. "Can we get Ethan away from her?" Clara's face softened. "If we prove fraud or endangerment, you could petition for custody. But it's a fight, Eleanor. Are you ready?" Eleanor thought of Ethan calling Nick Daddy, of Michael's note, "Keep Ethan safe." "I'm ready," she said, her voice steady. Clara smiled, fierce. "Good. Let's bury her." As Eleanor left, her phone buzzed, a new nanny cam alert. She opened the app, her heart stopping. The footage showed Nick in the living room, alone, holding a small vial, his voice low, "This'll keep her quiet." "Who's he talking about?" Eleanor's blood ran cold as she watched the nanny cam footage again, Nick's words echoing, "This'll keep her quiet." The vial gleamed in his hand, its contents unknown but sinister. She saved the clip, her mind racing. Is he planning to hurt me? Or Jessica? Or Ethan? The thought was unbearable. She needed leverage, something to unravel Nick's role in this nightmare. Ethan's voice calling him, Daddy, haunted her. How long has Nick been in his life? A dark question formed. Is Ethan even Michael's? The doubt was a knife, but she had to know. At home, Jessica was out, Nick sprawled on the couch, watching TV. Eleanor slipped into Ethan's room, her heart pounding. She found his brush, its bristles tangled with soft curls. She plucked a few hairs, sealing them in a bag, her hands shaking. She'd seen enough crime shows to know DNA could reveal truths no one could hide. She drove to a private lab, paying cash to avoid a trail. I need a paternity test, she told the technician, her voice low. Grandmother and child. And another sample if I can get it. The technician nodded, handing her a kit. Results in 3 days. Back home, she waited until Nick showered, his clothes strewn across the bathroom floor. She grabbed his comb, extracting a few dark hairs, her pulse racing. If Nick wasn't Ethan's father, it would weaken his claim to her grandson's life. If he was, she couldn't think about that yet. That night, she lay awake, the nanny cam footage replaying in her mind. She checked her phone, finding a new email from Dr. Patel, toxicology report accessed. Traces of sedatives in Michael's system. Not prescribed. Be careful. Eleanor's breath stopped. Sedatives. Michael hadn't taken anything stronger than aspirin. She thought of Nick's vial, Jessica's laughter, the insurance money. Did they drug him? Did they cause the crash? She looked at Ethan's sleeping form, her resolve steel. I'll find the truth, Michael, she whispered. And I'll make them pay. But as she turned off the light, a creak sounded downstairs. She froze, her heart pounding. Someone's in the house. The DNA results arrive in an envelope sealed with weight. The mother opens it in silence. Her fingers tremble as she reads. Paternity probability, 0%. Her knees buckle. Not only is the boyfriend not the father, but this means the entire lie was deeper than imagined. The daughter-in-law had lied to the child, the boyfriend, the world, and maybe even herself. She whispers to herself, "Whose child are you raising in my son's name?" She calls the lawyer. "We need to talk. Now." She invites the daughter-in-law, the boyfriend, 2 neighbors, and her late son's best friend over under the guise of a family meeting. On the table, a flash drive, the DNA results, and a copy of the voice recording from her son's phone. She plays the voice note. "If anything happens to me, ask her about the man who always waits in the parking lot. She knows what she's doing." The boyfriend stands. "Wait, what? You said." She interrupts, stammering. "It was before. It didn't mean anything." The boyfriend leaves. The neighbors gasp. The child watches silently from the stairs. The mother turns to her. "You have 24 hours to leave, or I'll show this to the police." She's at the kitchen sink when flashing red and blue lights scatter across the curtains. A neighbor, the one who saw the suspicious bruises weeks before her son's death, had anonymously tipped off the police. The toxicology report from the exhumation revealed traces of diazepam, a sedative, in his system. She's handcuffed, screaming, "You're ruining my life. This wasn't supposed to happen." The mother watches from the porch. "You ruined mine first." The officer turns to the mother. "We may need you for testimony." She petitions the court for full custody of her grandson, armed with proof of fraud, instability, and endangerment. The daughter-in-law's family shows up to fight. She remains calm. "I'm not taking him away from his mother. I'm protecting the only part of my son still alive." Her monologue in court is powerful, ending with, "My grandson deserves truth, not manipulation. He deserves love, not leverage. And he deserves to know who his real father was, my son." The judge rules in her favor. That night, the child asks, "Grandma, where's Mommy?" The daughter-in-law is charged with obstruction, fraud, and suspected involvement in a death under suspicious circumstances. Investigation continues. But the story ends not with revenge, but with healing. The mother is seen walking with her grandson, hand in hand, down a path lined with sunflowers, her son's favorite. She holds a framed photo of her son in one hand, the boy's tiny hand in the other. "You may not remember your daddy, but he loved you. And he left me one job, to protect you." She begins telling stories to the boy, of his father's laughter, his dreams, and his favorite song. The boy presses a button on a tape recorder. His father's voice echoes. "Hey little man, it's Daddy. If you're hearing this, always know I love you. Be strong like Grandma. She's got fire in her." Sometimes, the dead don't speak from the grave. They whisper from our hearts, until justice hears them. The end.